On the fringe of a quiet star system, nestled within a tiny, almost inconsequential galaxy, lay a planet that no one had ever thought twice about. It was a small blue orb, marked with vast oceans and sprawling landmasses, surrounded by a barely noticeable ring of asteroids. This planet, Earth, had long been ignored by the vast intergalactic community, its primitive inhabitants viewed as nothing more than a curious blip in the grand scheme of the cosmos. For millennia, Earth was content with its place at the bottom of the galactic hierarchy. The alien empires of the universe, powerful and technologically advanced, had little interest in such an underdeveloped world. But there was something about humanity that even the grandest empires couldn't entirely overlook. The first signs came in the form of small, almost imperceptible changes. A growing sense of unity among Earth's diverse cultures, an ever-broadening curiosity about the stars, and an undeniable, unyielding will to survive. Humanity, though in the early stages of technological development, had begun to make advances that hinted at the potential of a species that could rise from the dirt of their home planet and become something far greater. It was on the eve of the 23rd century when the first true breakthrough arrived. Earth's leading scientists had been working tirelessly on a new form of propulsion, one that would finally allow them to break free from the gravity of their planet and set foot beyond the moon. They called it the quantum slip drive, a device capable of folding space, allowing ships to move vast distances instantaneously. It was a game-changer. No sooner had Earth's first slip drive-powered ship launched than it attracted the attention of the surrounding star systems. Some watched from the shadows, calculating the implications of such an invention, while others, more aggressive, began to consider what threat this small blue planet might pose. But it wasn't until the first Earth ship encountered an alien vessel that humanity's place in the universe truly shifted. The encounter was not one of war, nor of friendship, but rather of misunderstanding. Earth's crew, upon first contact with a highly advanced alien race known as the Zcair, were not met with greetings or formal introductions. Instead, they were captured, studied, and used as little more than lab animals by the Zcair, who saw Earthlings as primitive creatures unworthy of their attention. It was in this moment of imprisonment that the true potential of humanity began to reveal itself. While the Zcair believed themselves to be superior in every way, they failed to account for the one thing that had always driven humanity forward: sheer determination. Earth's first contact was not to be one of subjugation. It would spark a revolution. A small group of humans, no more than a handful of scientists and engineers, began to work in secret. Despite their confinement aboard the Zcair warship, they managed to reverse-engineer the Zcair technology, breaking the chains of their captors one piece at a time. They learned the ways of their alien captors' ships, their energy systems, and their weapons. They even discovered the hidden flaws in Zcair defenses, flaws that no one had seen before. It was in the depths of the alien vessel's prison cells that the first rebellion was born. Leading the charge was Commander Eric Hall, a former military officer who had been aboard the slip-drive ship during its first exploration. His mind was sharp, his resolve unshakable, and his understanding of tactics unparalleled. Along with a group of brilliant scientists and engineers, Hall began to organize the prisoners into a cohesive force. They shared knowledge and resources, pooling their skills and creating a plan to escape and fight back. The first victory came not with a battle, but with an escape. The ship was massive, and the Zcair did not notice when a small group of humans slipped past their surveillance systems. Using their newly acquired knowledge of Zcair technology, they activated the ship's emergency systems, launching a surprise attack on the aliens' command center. The Zcair, confident in their technological superiority, were caught off guard. The humans, armed with stolen weapons and improvised tech, overwhelmed their captors, securing the ship and taking control of the bridge. The escape was complete, but the battle was far from over. The humans now had something far more valuable than their freedom: the key to an insurrection. It was a weapon the Zcair could never have anticipated: an army of resourceful, determined humans, with access to the most advanced technology in the galaxy, prepared to wage war for their place in the stars. As Earth's first warship, the Starfire, set its course for home, the message was clear. Humanity was no longer a minor species. They were a force to be reckoned with, and their revolution had just begun. The universe would soon learn what happens when you underestimate a small blue planet. The Starfire cut through the void of space, its newly repaired hull gleaming under the distant stars. Commander Eric Hall stood at the helm, looking out at the vast, uncharted reaches of the galaxy. The ship was unlike anything Earth had ever produced, combining the best of ZKR technology with human ingenuity. It was a symbol of their defiance, a harbinger of the revolution they were about to ignite. Back on Earth, the news of the successful escape from ZKR captivity spread like wildfire. Governments, factions, and corporations were left in a state of shock. What had once seemed like a distant, far-fetched dream, space travel beyond the moon, meeting alien civilizations, and mastering the technology to defend themselves, was now an undeniable reality. As humanity marveled at their newfound power, there were others who feared it. Earth was no longer an insignificant planet. The message from Starfire was clear. Humanity was ready to claim its place among the stars, but not everyone would welcome them. The galactic powers that had ignored Earth for so long began to take notice. The ZKR, humiliated by their defeat and the loss of their ship, immediately dispatched a fleet to Earth. Their pride wounded, the ZKR sought retribution for what they saw as an act of betrayal, their motives driven by a desire to prove their superiority. Yet it wasn't just the ZKR who were concerned. The Galactic Confederation, a massive alliance of multiple alien species, had long maintained an unspoken policy of non-interference with the primitive worlds like Earth. But the sudden rise of the humans, now armed with advanced ZKR technology, forced them to reconsider this policy. The Confederation feared that humanity's bold actions could destabilize the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. They couldn't allow Earth to grow too powerful, lest it shift the power dynamic in the galaxy. But humanity, undeterred by the growing threat, wasn't about to sit idly by. Earth's leaders called for an emergency council, a meeting of all military, scientific, and political factions to discuss their next move. The Earth Defense Alliance, EDA, was born, an organization dedicated to uniting Earth's forces and preparing them for the coming storm. In the weeks that followed, Earth's top scientists and engineers worked around the clock to build a fleet capable of standing against the alien forces that would soon descend upon them. Civilian volunteers flocked to the military ranks, eager to join the fight. Pilots trained in simulators, soldiers honed their combat skills, and engineers rapidly adapted the alien technology they had stolen to create new warships and weaponry. The resistance movement began to coalesce, and it wasn't just the Earth Defense Alliance that was preparing for war. Across the galaxy, various factions began to take sides. Some saw humanity as a new, potentially powerful ally. The Arvathi, a fierce and proud race of warriors, began covertly supplying Earth with advanced weapons and ships. Their leaders, long wary of the ZKR, recognized humanity's determination and resourcefulness as an asset they could leverage. Others, like the Drask, a hive-minded species that thrived on domination and control, saw humanity as a threat to their long-standing empire. The Drask sent emissaries to the ZKR, offering their support in exchange for Earth's resources. The Drask believed that humanity, with its boldness and adaptability, would either be crushed beneath their heel or bent to serve them as a new appendage of their vast dominion. Yet, humanity's greatest strength lay not in its technology or newfound alliances, but in its unwavering will. Across Earth, people from every walk of life, farmers, teachers, workers, and soldiers, found common ground in their shared determination to protect their world. The spirit of unity and resilience that had driven humanity for centuries was now their greatest weapon. The first battle came sooner than expected. A fleet of ZKR ships, reinforced by Drask warships, arrived at the outskirts of Earth's solar system. The Earth Defense Alliance, though outnumbered and outgunned, was ready. The Starfire, alongside the newly commissioned fleet of Earth warships, engaged the invaders in a fierce battle. The humans, though vastly outmatched in firepower, fought with a ferocity that no one had anticipated. Using tactics learned from their brief time aboard the ZK ship, they attacked in unexpected ways, disrupting enemy communications, using hit-and-run tactics, and exploiting weaknesses in the alien ship's armor. The Earth fleet was small, but it was scrappy, and they fought as one. The ZK, initially confident in their superiority, found themselves at a disadvantage. The humans' tactics were unpredictable, their resolve unbreakable. For the first time in millennia, the once mighty ZK were forced to reconsider the value of their ancient belief in domination and invincibility. When the battle ended, the Earth Defense Alliance had won the day. Though the ZK and Drask had inflicted significant damage to Earth's fleet, the humans had made their point clear. They were not to be underestimated. They had fought back, and they had won. The victory over the alien fleet was not just a military one. It was a declaration to the galaxy that humanity had arrived, and they would not bow to anyone. The revolution was no longer a dream. It was a movement that would change the course of history. As the human fleet limped back to Earth, Commander Eric Hall stood once again at the helm of the Starfire. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he also knew this: humanity had a fire that no one could extinguish. The revolution had begun, and the stars would soon tremble at the force of a small blue planet. The air inside the Starfire was thick with tension as Commander Eric Hall and his crew prepared for the Arvathi's trial. The mighty warlord Taruk had given them little choice: prove their mettle in battle, or risk losing the potential alliance that could be humanity's salvation. The test was set in the heart of the Arvathi system, in an asteroid belt dense with jagged rocks and deadly debris. The Arvathi warriors, legendary for their mastery in space combat, would lead a simulated assault, launching attacks from hidden positions in the field. The challenge was not only to survive the onslaught but to outmaneuver and disable the Arvathi ships without outright destruction, proving that humanity could engage in high-stakes combat without recklessly risking everything. Eric Hall stood at the bridge, his hands steady as he issued orders to his crew. The tension among the humans aboard the Starfire was palpable. Though they had fought bravely in the battle against the ZK and Drask, this would be different. The Arvathi were no mere invaders. They were the embodiment of war, each of their ships designed with lethal precision, and their combat tactics were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Prepare for evasive maneuvers, full shields at maximum, Hall ordered, his voice calm but firm. This is our proving ground. Stay sharp, everyone. The battle began with a sudden, blinding flash as Arvathi warships emerged from hidden cloaks behind the asteroid field. They moved with terrifying speed, their ships built for agile and brutal strikes. At first, the Starfire was bombarded with heavy plasma blasts, their shields shuddering under the assault. "Shields holding," reported Lieutenant Zoe Ramirez, the ship's weapons officer. "We need to take evasive action. They'll target our engines next. Hold tight. Use their predictability against them," Hall said, his mind racing. He had studied Arvathi tactics and knew that they loved to use overwhelming force to break their opponents. The key to surviving was exploiting their pride. They would never expect the humans to turn the tide with cunning rather than raw power. With a precise series of commands, Hall ordered the Starfire to barrel roll through the dense asteroid field, narrowly avoiding incoming blasts from the Arvathi. As they weaved through the rocks, the Arvathi ships struggled to follow in their wake. The humans were outnumbered, but their ability to improvise, adapt, and exploit their surroundings gave them an edge. "This is where we show them who we are," Hall muttered under his breath. The Starfire crew worked in perfect harmony, executing a series of daring maneuvers. Ramirez expertly fired concentrated energy beams into the weak points of the Arvathi ship's shields, temporarily disabling their weapons. Meanwhile, Ensign Ravi Patel, the ship's navigator, used his knowledge of the terrain to guide the Starfire through a series of narrow asteroid corridors, using the rocks as both shields and distractions. The Arvathi warships, stunned by the humans' ability to fight with precision rather than brute force, began to adjust their tactics. Warlord Taruk watched intently from his flagship, the Crimson Talon, as the humans evaded every trap he set for them. For the first time in a long while, the Arvathi were forced to fight with respect, not just dominance. "This is not what I expected," Tarak's voice crackled over the communication line. "You fight with heart, human. You show honor. But now, the final test." Hall raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Without warning, a massive asteroid, larger than any they had encountered, broke apart in front of them. From its core, a massive Arvathi dreadnought emerged, an ancient warship that had been thought lost for centuries. The Titan's Wrath was armed with weapons capable of vaporizing entire fleets, a fitting final trial for humanity's resolve. "We fight to the end. Prove your strength against the might of the Arvathi," Tarak declared, a hint of a challenge in his voice. "If you can disable the Titan's Wrath, I will acknowledge you as true warriors." The challenge was not just about survival anymore. If humanity could outmaneuver and disable the dreadnought, it would prove that they were not only capable of tactical genius, but also worthy of standing among the galaxy's greatest warriors. Eric Hall made a snap decision. "All hands, prepare for a full-scale assault. We can't outgun it, but we can outsmart it." The Starfire engaged with all its remaining firepower, targeting weak points in the Titan's Wrath's hull. The crew worked tirelessly, hammering away at the massive warship's defenses while using asteroids as cover. Hall knew that they didn't have the firepower to defeat it outright. The key was precision and resourcefulness. They had to disable its weapons and propulsion systems, not destroy it. For hours, the battle raged. The Arvathi dreadnought unleashed wave after wave of devastating attacks, but the Starfire danced around them, evading blasts, striking with calculated accuracy. Ramirez expertly disabled the dreadnought's primary weapons array, while Patel navigated the Starfire through the perilous asteroid field to stay ahead of the ship's destructive volleys. Finally, the moment came. With a well-timed strike, Hall ordered the crew to target the Titan's Wrath's central reactor, a risky move, but one that would ensure the dreadnought's engines were crippled. The Starfire launched a precise volley of energy torpedoes into the reactor's core, sending shockwaves through the massive warship. The Titan's Wrath shuddered, its engines faltering. It would not be destroyed, but it was disabled, its threat neutralized. The Arvathi fleet halted. Warlord Tarak's face appeared on the screen, a grudging respect in his eyes. "You have proven yourselves," he said, his voice low but filled with admiration. "The Earthlings are no longer just a threat. You are a force to be reckoned with." With that, the alliance was sealed. Humanity had passed the trial, not just with courage, but with honor. And the revolution that had begun with a single ship had now earned the respect of a warrior race, opening the door for the next stage in their war for freedom. As the Starfire made its way back to Earth, Commander Hall stood at the bridge, looking out at the stars. He knew the war was far from over. The ZKR would be watching, the Drask would be scheming, and other enemies would rise from the shadows. But now, humanity had allies, and more importantly, had proven they could face the galaxy on their own terms. The revolution was unstoppable. The victory over the Titan's Wrath had reverberated across the galaxy like a shockwave, and humanity's place in the interstellar community was no longer a matter of speculation. Earth had proven its worth, its resilience, and its capacity for tactical brilliance. The Arvathi, once a race that had viewed humans as nothing more than fragile, primitive creatures, now saw them as potential allies, a force capable of standing toe-to-toe with even the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. With the alliance forged, Commander Eric Hall and the crew of the Starfire were given a crucial task: to travel to the heart of the Galactic Confederation, a sprawling union of powerful alien species, to present humanity's case for recognition as a full member. Earth's success in the battle against the ZKR and Drask, combined with the Arvathi's endorsement, had created a window of opportunity. It was time to make their bid for a place among the stars. However, not everyone in the galaxy was thrilled by the idea of humanity's rise. The Confederation was composed of dozens of species, many of whom had lived in peace for centuries, their power structures delicately balanced. The sudden emergence of a previously unknown species, especially one that had shown such military prowess, threatened to upset that balance. Some members of the Confederation saw humanity's rapid ascension as a challenge to the status quo. They were wary of Earth's motives and uncertain of the consequences of bringing such a volatile species into the fold. When the Starfire arrived in the heart of the Galactic Confederation, a massive station orbited a dying star, its shimmering surface a hub of political intrigue and negotiation. A coalition of ambassadors from all corners of the galaxy convened in the vast council hall, where Earth's future would be decided. Commander Hall and his crew stood in a massive chamber filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. Their eyes were fixed on the humans, sizing them up, trying to gauge what kind of species they were dealing with. The chamber was silent as Warlord Taruk, standing beside Hall, spoke first. His booming voice resonated throughout the hall. We, the Arvathi, have witnessed humanity's strength. They have proven themselves on the battlefield, and they fought with honor. I stand beside them. The room buzzed with murmurs, but not all were supportive. A representative from the Zcair, whose species had been humiliated by the Earthlings, stood and spoke with venom in his voice. The humans are dangerous. They have demonstrated their willingness to challenge the established order. Allowing them into the Confederation would be a grave mistake. The room erupted in argument, with different factions taking sides. Some, like the Arvathi and the Paxians, a peaceful and enlightened species, argued in favor of humanity's inclusion, citing their potential as a stabilizing force in the galaxy. Others, like the Zcair and the Drask, pushed back, suggesting that humanity was a threat to the galactic peace. Eric Hall stood at the center of the debate, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the rising tension in the chamber. He knew that the fate of his species hung in the balance. This was not just about politics, it was about Earth's survival. He stepped forward, silencing the room with a simple gesture. "You may see us as a threat," Hall began, his voice carrying through the chamber. "But I ask you to see us for what we truly are, a species that fought to survive, that resisted subjugation, and that now stands ready to offer its strength, not just to defend itself, but to protect others. We may be new to the stars, but we have the will to forge our own destiny, alongside any who seek peace and cooperation." His words resonated through the chamber, but the debate continued. Finally, the head of the Galactic Confederation, a being known as the Matriarch, a towering, crystalline entity from the Zinther race, spoke. "We have heard your words, human. But words are only the beginning. If you truly wish to join us, you must prove that you are more than a warrior race. You must demonstrate your ability to contribute to the greater good of the Confederation, to work together with species who have thrived for millennia without the need for constant warfare." Hall nodded. "We understand, and we are willing to prove ourselves." The matriarch's eyes glowed with a soft light as she considered his words. "We will give you the opportunity, but be warned, human. The galaxy is not kind to those who do not understand its complexities." As the council ended, Hall and his crew were left with an uncertain future. The matriarch had spoken of trials, tests, and diplomatic missions, each one designed to evaluate humanity's ability to function within the delicate fabric of the Confederation. These would not be simple challenges. Earth had already proven itself in battle, but to truly join the Confederation, it would need to show that it could contribute to galactic peace in ways beyond warfare. But as Hall left the council chamber, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge had only just begun. There were those in the galaxy who would never accept humanity's rise, and not all of them would be content with mere diplomacy. There were factions out there, waiting in the shadows, ready to strike at the heart of Earth's progress. As if on cue, the communications officer on the Starfire interrupted his thoughts. "Commander, we're receiving an encrypted transmission from the Zcair. It's marked as urgent." Hall frowned. The Zcair had no reason to communicate, not after their defeat. His instincts told him this message was not one of peace. He activated the transmission. The screen flickered to life, revealing a shadowed figure. A Zcair emissary, his eyes glowing with malice, spoke with cold fury. "We have not forgotten your defiance, human. The galaxy will not tolerate your rise. This is your warning. The Zcair will bring the galaxy to its knees, and you will be the first to fall." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Hall with a chilling sense of foreboding. The ZKRS threat was not just a declaration of war, it was a declaration of chaos. The revolution had only just begun, and Earth's enemies were now making their move. The galaxy would soon be a battleground, and humanity's place within it was anything but certain. The threat from the ZKR had barely settled when the Starfire received its first test in the delicate political landscape of the Galactic Confederation. Commander Eric Hall knew that humanity's position in the galaxy was still fragile, even with the Arvathi's support. The ZKR's warning was not to be taken lightly. It was a call to action, and the ripples of their threat would spread far and wide, especially as Earth began its journey toward membership in the Confederation. Despite the looming danger, Hall's mission remained clear. Humanity had to prove it was more than just a warrior species. The upcoming diplomatic tests would not only determine Earth's future in the Confederation but also shape its role in the galaxy. The human race would have to show that it could contribute to galactic peace, not just defend itself, but also work alongside the diverse species of the Confederation to resolve conflicts and promote unity. The first of these tests came in the form of a humanitarian mission. A sector of the Confederation, located near the outer fringes of known space, had been torn apart by a prolonged civil war. The Doriath, a once prosperous species, were now on the brink of extinction, their homeworld devastated by infighting and alien incursions. A fragile ceasefire had been brokered, but it was unstable, and many of the planet's inhabitants were on the brink of starvation. The Confederation tasked humanity with leading a relief mission to the Doriath homeworld. The goal was simple: get aid to the planet's surface, help stabilize the ceasefire, and prevent the war from escalating further. The mission would test humanity's ability to deal with a crisis without resorting to violence. On board the Starfire, Hall and his crew prepared for what would be a diplomatic and logistical challenge. The stakes were high, and the pressure was mounting. The Doriath were a proud people, and while they were grateful for any assistance, they had no love for the Confederation or its new member, humanity. Their bitter history with the galactic powers left little room for trust, and they had little faith in the promise of peace. As the Starfire approached the Doriath system, the crew noticed something unsettling: an ominous silence. The Doriath's homeworld, once a beacon of culture and progress, was now a scarred and war-torn planet. The surface was covered in sprawling craters and massive trenches, remnants of battles fought over resources and ideology. As the Starfire entered orbit, the crew could see the remnants of ruined cities, smoke rising from the planet's surface, and pockets of resistance still fighting in the distance. "Let's keep our wits about us," Hall muttered as he watched the planet below. "We're here to help, but the Doriath are fiercely independent. We can't force anything, only offer what we can." Lieutenant Zoe Ramirez, the weapons officer, was not convinced. "I don't like how quiet it is. You think they'll try some things? Maybe. But we can't afford to start a fight. Not now." The team had been briefed on the Doriath's deeply divided factions. A portion of their population wanted peace, desperately seeking any outside intervention to help them end the conflict. But there were others who viewed the Confederation and humanity as weak interlopers. These factions would do anything to prevent Earth's involvement, even if it meant continuing the violence. The Starfire touched down on the Doriath world, where a small contingent of the Federation's diplomats had already set up a temporary base. The relief efforts were already underway, with food, water, and medical supplies being distributed. But the human presence was met with suspicion, especially from those factions who feared that humanity's involvement was just a prelude to taking over Doriath's remaining resources. Commander Hall and his diplomatic envoy, including Doriath specialists, made their way through the war-ravaged streets to meet with the leaders of the ceasefire. The atmosphere was thick with distrust, and the Doriath leaders, their faces worn and hardened by years of conflict, eyed the humans with a mix of wariness and hostility. The first meeting was tense, the leaders of the warring factions glaring at one another across a makeshift table, while Hall stood in the middle, his calm voice cutting through the noise of old grievances. "We're not here to take your land or your resources," Hall said. We're here to ensure that the people of Doriath survive, and that you have a chance to rebuild without the constant threat of war. We offer our help, and we can leave as soon as the ceasefire is secure." One of the faction leaders, a Doriath warrior named Ithan, stood and sneered. "You think you can fix what's broken? You're just a new arrival. We've been fighting for centuries. Your species is too young, too inexperienced to understand the weight of our history." Hall met Ithan's gaze with unwavering determination. "I may not know your history, but I understand survival. I understand what it's like to fight when there's no other choice. I won't pretend to know what's best for you, but we can give you the tools to help yourselves." The room fell into an uneasy silence, but Hall's words seemed to strike a chord. Despite the hostility, a sliver of hope flickered in the eyes of the more moderate Doriath leaders. The humans were offering a path forward, a path that didn't involve more destruction. Over the next few days, the Starfire's crew worked tirelessly to mediate between the Doriath factions, using their own knowledge of conflict resolution to help broker tentative agreements. Human medical teams provided aid, and Earth engineers worked to restore power to critical infrastructure. Slowly, despite the resistance, the factions began to see the benefits of peace. But just as the ceasefire appeared to be holding, a sudden attack from a rogue faction threatened to undo everything. A well-placed bomb exploded near one of the relief stations, killing several diplomats and civilians. The faction responsible was suspected to be backed by the Zcair, an unmistakable sign that they were actively working to destabilize the peace efforts. The bomb was a message: humanity was not welcome, and its rise would be resisted at any cost. Hall's blood ran cold as the news broke. This was no longer just a political mission, it had become a battle for survival. The Zcair had made their move. The stakes were now higher than ever. "We can't let this stand," Hall said, standing in the war room with his senior officers. "We need to defend this mission. We can't allow the Zcair to destroy our chances of proving humanity's place in the galaxy." But there was something else, something that gnawed at the back of Hall's mind. The attack was a clear warning, but it also confirmed something far more dangerous. The Zcair were actively undermining Earth's efforts. Humanity had become a target, and now it was not just Earth's survival that was at stake, but its future as a galactic power. As the Starfire prepared to engage in defense operations, Hall couldn't shake the feeling that the true war had just begun. The Zcair weren't going to stop with just one bombing. They would come at humanity from every direction, testing Earth's resolve and determination to carve out its place in the stars. And if Earth couldn't hold its ground, the revolution that had begun with a single victory would be crushed before it ever had a chance to grow. The attack on the Doriath relief mission had thrown humanity into a storm of uncertainty. The Zcair's interference was a stark reminder of how deeply entrenched the forces against Earth's ascension were. The message had been clear: the Zcair would stop at nothing to ensure that humanity would never be more than a minor player in the galaxy. Earth's revolution had sparked the interest of many, but it had also made it a prime target for those who wanted to maintain the status quo. The Starfire crew quickly learned that the Zcair's reach extended far beyond the Doriath system. The bombing on Doriath was just the beginning of a coordinated campaign of sabotage. Smaller, covert groups, some sympathetic to the Zcair cause, others seeking to benefit from the chaos, began launching attacks on critical human infrastructure, both within the Confederation and on Earth itself. Energy stations, diplomatic convoys, and communications relays all came under assault. Earth's fragile alliance with the Arvathi and other Confederation members was now at risk. Some species, fearing that the Zcair's influence might spread, began pulling back their support for humanity. Diplomatic missions were cancelled, trade deals were suspended, and the vote on Earth's full membership in the Confederation, once a near certainty, was now in jeopardy. The message was clear: if Earth could not defend itself, it would be left to fight alone. But Commander Eric Hall refused to let Earth's fate be decided by fear and sabotage. If the Zcair wanted to destroy humanity's rise, they would have to face humanity's full wrath. Hall convened a meeting with his senior officers aboard the Starfire. The situation was dire, but there was still hope. "We need to send a message of our own," he said, his voice resolute. We're not just going to sit back and wait for the ZKR to strike again. We're going to take the fight to them. Lieutenant Ramirez, the ship's weapons officer, nodded. The Starfire is ready. We've got the firepower to send a message, and if we have to fight the ZKR on their turf, we'll do it. We'll need more than just firepower, Hall replied, his brow furrowing. We need intelligence. The ZKR are hiding behind shadow networks and mercenary groups. We need to find their weak points and hit them where it hurts. Ensign Ravi Patel, the Starfire's navigator and intelligence officer, spoke up. There are rumors circulating that the ZKR have set up a hidden base near the Theros Nebula. It's been difficult to confirm, but if it's true, we could strike a decisive blow to their operations. Hall's eyes narrowed as he weighed the options. The Theros Nebula was a treacherous region of space, full of electromagnetic storms and asteroid fields. It would be a dangerous mission, but if the ZKR were indeed using it as a staging point, taking it out could cripple their ability to coordinate attacks. Prepare the ship. We leave within the hour, Hall ordered. This is our chance to show the galaxy that humanity is not a threat to be eliminated, but a force to be reckoned with. We're going to the heart of the ZKR's operation, and we're going to hit them hard. As the Starfire made its way toward the Theros Nebula, tensions ran high aboard the ship. The crew knew they were heading into hostile territory, but there was a sense of unity among them. Earth had been backed into a corner, and now, the crew of the Starfire was ready to fight for their future. The journey to the Theros Nebula took several days, with the crew making adjustments to the ship's systems to withstand the harsh conditions of the region. Navigating through the nebula would be a challenge, but Hall trusted Patel's ability to guide the ship through the treacherous terrain. Upon arrival, the Starfire entered the nebula's outer edges, where the electromagnetic storms wreaked havoc on sensors and communications. The crew worked in near silence, each member focused on their task as the ship plunged deeper into the nebula's heart. Suddenly, a sharp tone echoed through the ship's systems. "Commander," Patel called, his voice urgent. "We've detected a massive energy signature. It's coming from a station just beyond the dense asteroid field. It matches the pattern of the ZKR's ships." Hall's gaze hardened. "This is it. Let's get in and out quickly. We disable their operations and leave before they can retaliate." As they approached the station, Hall gave the order for evasive maneuvers. The Starfire glided through the asteroid field, avoiding detection as much as possible. Their objective was clear: disable the ZKR's operations without alerting the full force of their fleet. The station loomed ahead, surrounded by a fleet of smaller ZKR ships. The Starfire's weapons were primed, and Hall knew that a direct assault was inevitable. "Prepare for engagement," he commanded. "We're hitting them where it counts. Take out their weapons and communications first." The first wave of fire came from the ZKR ships, but the Starfire's agile maneuvers allowed it to slip through the onslaught with minimal damage. Ramirez fired the ship's powerful energy beams, targeting key points on the station's hull. The ZKR ships retaliated, but the Starfire's shields held strong. "We've taken out their main communications array," Ramirez reported. "They're blind now. We can finish this." With the ZKR unable to call for reinforcements, Hall and his crew pressed the advantage. The Starfire moved in close, firing precise shots at the power cores and weapon systems of the ZKR station. The station's defenses began to crumble under the barrage, but just as Hall thought victory was within reach, a new threat emerged. A massive ZKR warship, larger and more powerful than anything they had encountered before, dropped out of stealth mode behind them. Its weapons were fully charged and ready to unleash a devastating barrage. "Brace for impact," Hall shouted as the Starfire rocked under the first wave of fire from the warship. The crew fought back with everything they had. Ramirez worked quickly to reconfigure the ship's weapons, unleashing a barrage of return fire, while Patel skillfully maneuvered the Starfire through the oncoming blasts. The ZKR warship was formidable, but the Starfire was faster, and humanity's will to survive was stronger. After what felt like an eternity, the ZKR warship finally began to falter, its shields dropping and its systems failing under the concentrated assault. With one final strike, the Starfire disabled its core, sending the warship spinning out of control. The ZKR station, now left vulnerable and with no reinforcements coming, was quickly disabled, its power grid collapsing. The Starfire had delivered a devastating blow to the heart of the ZKR's operations. As the crew watched the flames of the dying station flicker on the view screen, Hall allowed himself a brief moment of relief. They had struck back, but it was only the beginning. The ZKR would regroup, and Earth's enemies were still out there. The revolution was far from over, and the shadows of war were only beginning to cast their long reach across the galaxy. But humanity had taken its stand. The fight was on. The Starfire limped back into the heart of the Galactic Confederation, its hull battered and scorched from the battle at the Theros Nebula. The crew, exhausted but resolute, knew they had made a bold statement to the galaxy. Humanity would not back down, and it would not be cowed into submission. They had struck the ZK where it hurt, delivering a devastating blow that would echo across the stars. The Confederation had been watching. The debate over Earth's place in the galaxy had reached a boiling point, but what had happened in the past few weeks had shifted the balance. Humanity had shown not just its will to survive, but its capacity to lead, to protect, and to fight for something greater than itself. Upon their return, the crew was met by representatives from across the Confederation, including the Arvathi and the Paxians, who had long been among the first to support humanity. But there were others, species that had been wary, even hostile, who now found themselves reconsidering their stance. Commander Eric Hall stood before the assembly, his eyes scanning the room full of alien ambassadors and leaders. The tension was palpable. Earth had done the impossible. But would it be enough? Could humanity truly earn its place among the stars? Warlord Turok, the towering Arvathi ambassador, spoke first. The ZKR will not forget the lesson you have taught them today. They will remember that humanity will not be intimidated, that Earth will stand shoulder to shoulder with the great powers of the galaxy. And if you choose to stand with us, we will fight with you, side by side. But there were still voices of dissent. A representative of the Drask, a fearsome reptilian species that had once tried to conquer Earth during the ZKR's initial attack, rose. Your victory at the nebula was impressive, human, but it was one victory. One battle in a war that is far from over. What makes you think you are ready to join us in a galaxy full of ancient powers? Hall stepped forward, his gaze steady and unwavering. Because we fight for more than just ourselves. We fight for the future, for the people we've lost, for those who don't have the strength to defend themselves. And because we believe that a galaxy filled with so many diverse species can do more together than apart. He paused, letting his words settle in. We may not have your centuries of history. We may not have your advanced technologies or ancient alliances. But we have something stronger. The will to stand together, to protect one another, and to fight for what's right, even when the odds are stacked against us. We are ready to join this confederation, not as a burden, but as an ally. We'll earn our place. For a moment, the room was silent, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air. Then, unexpectedly, the matriarch, the towering Zinther leader who had been watching quietly, spoke up. You speak with conviction, human, she said, her crystalline voice resonating like music. Your actions have proven your strength, but your words now prove your wisdom. You may be young in the ways of the galaxy, but your resolve is undeniable. Perhaps it is time to let Earth show what it can truly do. A wave of murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some species looked at each other with hesitant nods, others deep in thought. Then, after what seemed like an eternity, the matriarch's glowing eyes met Hall's. Let it be known, humanity will be accepted into the Galactic Confederation with full rights and responsibilities. You will now stand as equals with the rest of us. A cheer erupted from the human contingent, and even some of the alien representatives who had been on the fence stood to acknowledge the decision. It was a historic moment, one that marked the beginning of humanity's journey as a true galactic power. But even as the celebration began, Hall couldn't shake the feeling that the path ahead would not be easy. The ZKR, humiliated by their loss, would not rest. The galaxy was vast, and the peace they had fought for was fragile. They had won a place among the stars, But the war was far from over. A message arrived on the Starfire from Earth just hours later, bearing news that would change everything. It was a transmission from the United Earth government, an update on the situation back home. "The war with the ZKR is not over," the message began. "But we've just received word from a resistance faction on the ZKR homeworld. They want to speak with humanity." It was a shocking revelation. There were dissenters within the ZKR ranks. A faction of ZKR, disillusioned with their empire's tyrannical rule and driven by a desire for change, had begun to organize. They had witnessed humanity's defiance and saw an opportunity to break free from their brutal regime. They were asking for humanity's help. Hall felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. The offer was dangerous. If they chose to help, they could be plunging themselves into the heart of enemy territory, risking everything. But if they refused, the ZKR would only continue to escalate the conflict, and Earth might be left with no allies in the galaxy. "This is our moment," Hall said quietly to his crew. "This is the chance to make a real difference, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. We can bring about a change in the ZKR Empire, not through force, but through unity. We'll offer them a path, not just to survive, but to thrive." And so, humanity's next chapter began. Not as conquerors, but as a force for peace, standing side by side with those willing to change. The revolution had sparked a fire across the galaxy, and now, as they ventured into the heart of ZKR space to meet with their rebels, Hall knew the stakes had never been higher. This was no longer just about survival. This was about shaping the future of the galaxy, creating a new era where cooperation, strength, and unity could overcome even the darkest forces. Humanity's place in the stars was no longer a question, it was a destiny. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and it was up to them to lead the way.